This is my presentation of New Hampshire. It's my Pachachka. I am Parley Birkland. Basically, I will be telling you why people would leave their nice, good New England, or England, and come over to this new colony that's fresh and pretty, like, hard to live in. These are the 13 original colonies: the Massachusetts Bay Colony, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. These are the New England colonies: Massachusetts Bay Colony, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut. These are the colonies nearer to the area that we will be talking about today. They are called the New England area because they're the New England area. This is New Hampshire, the colony that we will be talking about today. So it was founded in 1776. So Vermont was actually its own country. It was never part of New Hampshire. So it pretty much did its own thing. This is the food they grew and ate there. They grew rye, beans, squash, corn, and pumpkins. They grew these because the soil wasn't rich enough for stuff like wheat. These are the resources they had access to. They had access to fish, wood, and whales. The fish were mainly food. The wood they used for lots of things: keeping warm during the winter, houses, building their boats, and other weapons. These are their boat build. This is boat building. Since they didn't make a lot of money off of food, they mostly made money by trading back to New England, by bringing food and whale oil and stuff and other things like that back. They were built by the colonists, not by slaves. This is whale hunting. Whale hunting gave them a lot of stuff, such as fat, oil, meat, all of which they would get bottle up and put on a boat and sell it. This is fishing. They didn't actually use poles. They were taught by the Indians how to make special fishing traps that they could set in the water that the fish would get caught in. Also, they were taught to make giant nets and just basically drag them behind their whole thing. This is what the weather was like. The weather was really cold. One of the reasons why the wood resource was very, very important. During the winter, it got really cold, so they had to use all that wood that they got and be able to burn it so they could keep warm. This is Portsmouth. Portsmouth was it was the first port. It was it exported lots of timber products because it was so woody in New Hampshire. This is Puritans. They were a religious movement in the late 16th and 17th centuries. They sought to purify the Church of England and the remains of the Roman Catholic popery. They pretty much were trying to reform a whole new lifestyle and pattern for a whole nation. This is the other religion, the Separatists. They're also called the Independent. They were any English prostitutes who wished to separate from the Church of England, and they basically made independent local churches. They were led by Oliver Cromwell. He was a separatist himself. This is John Mason, the guy who basically helped settle New Hampshire. He was a English settler, a soldier, commander. He was a deputy governor to the Connecticut colony. He's best known for leading the English settlers on attack of Butte and the Mystic Fort, and that event ended up being known as the Mystic Massacre. This is Sir Fernando Gorges. He was another guy who helped settle New Hampshire. He was a naval and military commander and a governor of an important part of Plymouth in England. He was involved in the Essex Rebellion against the Queen, but he escaped punishment by testifying against the main conspirators. This is the Plymouth Council for New England. They were the guys who pretty much told John Mason and Sir Fernando Gorges that they could make this new colony. Without them, without the charter that they gave them, John Mason wouldn't have been allowed to do that. So these are when this was when Portsmouth was founded. It was in 1630. The Pilgrims were the first ones to land. So they were pretty much the ones who got there and were like, "Oh, yay, new land. Let's go build some houses." These are the actual pilgrims. Pilgrim, it comes from the Latin peregrinus. It's a traveler who's on a journey to a holy place. So, and typically this is a physical journey. So it's literally someone who's going to a place, like a religious place that they believe is spiritual. The Massachusetts Bay Tarentum Prayer, I can't pronounce that word. They were the other guys who got there. So and the them and the Pilgrims fought over a lot of stuff, like whether or not they owned this land or whether the Pilgrims were allowed to be there. And this is the factors that brought people to New Hampshire. Religious freedom. There were two separate religions that came, as well as pilgrims looking for going on a spiritual journey. So New Hampshire was really a spiritual place. Economic opportunity. There was, like I said, wood, whales, fish. Wood was really helpful. There were also lots of animals, so they could use those as furs. Whales had a lot of important stuff. And finally, it was forced migration. Like someone planted those plants, someone grew that food, and it wasn't the colonists. It was convicts, it was slaves, and it was indentured servants. And that is my presentation of New Hampshire.